Welcome back. I'm Kim Bailey. She's Fulyana Osborne, and this is Inside Exec. And before we start, I'm going to warn you that I'm in trouble because I related a story that was not particularly complimentary of my decision-making activities that happened last week. And so Fulyana is on her high chair and her high horse about me learning and about being not as stubborn as I can be. I won't let that flavour the conversation that we're having today. So what we're going to talk about today is returning to a former place of work. And it's interesting that we might consider that for all sorts of reasons. You know, you in your career time, you set out a path for yourselves. We're not in an environment, a work environment any longer where you would look at your first employer being your only employer. We're looking for work experience, life experience, developing our knowledge, developing our learning, all of those sorts of things, and to a certain extent a work-life balance as well. And so all of those things might contribute to making decisions about moving from one place of work to the next. In one of the previous podcasts, we did touch very briefly on what it's like and what the conditions might be in terms of a team to come back to a former place of work where people might or might not know you. And we're going to talk about that specifically today and see what we can come up with as some things that you might consider when this situation occurs to you.
When you go back to a place you worked there before, that can be in a capacity as a full-time employee and as a consultant. You might have done a job there once, project-based, whatever. You might go back to the same department that you worked in before. You might go back to a new area. You might go back at a much more senior level. You're starting to get the picture that a lot has changed since you were there. So if you look at what happened with you since you left that organization, you'll find that you have changed a lot, and mostly that would be good, hopefully, and that you have grown and you have something to bring back to this organization, because guess what? You either applied for a job and they hired you, or they headhunted you. So that's a good thing.
So either way, you've already made a decision, whether it was obviously, consciously, or not quite as obvious, that you want to go back to this workplace. So you feel that you've got something to offer, and also that the workplace has got something to offer you in terms of you returning there. You're not just going back as the conquering hero. You're actually going back because you think that there is some sort of relationship that can work for both parties.
As much as you have changed, the organization itself would have changed. So when you were there, the way it was structured, the way that the focus is, where the growth area is, where the needs area are, will be different to when you left it. The whole management team may have changed, or some of the management team may have changed.
You might be going back to it, or might be going into an area that hasn't been there before as well. It might be a completely new section.
Correct. You might be working with people that you really didn't enjoy working with before, or they didn't enjoy working with you. Or you might be working with people that you loved working with before, but they may have changed too. I guess the first thing is to take stock of the fact about what changed, reposition yourself as a brand new employee first. In your mind, I think it's important to take accountability of what has changed in the organization and learn. So go through the induction process that you plan for yourself, no matter how senior you are, and see what are the key issues for the organization, what the structure is, where we're trying to go, and talk to people. Gather information. Take a bit of time doing that. This is a really important step. And that will help you see where we're at now and where we want to be, and not look at where we were 5 years ago or whatever time you were there before.
In looking at the situation, and you determine that yes, you want to go back into this organisation, there's something that you can contribute, there's something that they can provide for you in terms of the goals that you've set yourself, and you do get to this understanding that the people that you're going to be working with are either ones that you didn't enjoy working with previously, or they're new ones that you don't know at all. Is there value in going into that situation and not talking about the time that you were there before, ignoring it completely?
I agree that in some cases that's exactly what you should do. In other cases, you might want to acknowledge, but by and large, the past is the past, and not come in like the guru with all the answers, like it's not done right here and I learned all these things and I'm going to bring it. Also have some consideration and respect for how much the people that you did with before, whether you like them or not, that's irrelevant, how much they would have grown. And if I can liken that to a family member, it could be a brother you haven't seen for a long time and you keep thinking of them as the 9-year-old that you last seen, or a cousin or whatever. People do change and you need to become acquainted and get to know the person as they are now, the organization as it is now, and you as you are now. And let people know that you're here to do, you're working as a team, and that your strength, and even for those people who thought that you might have some areas that required improvement, don't talk about that. Just do it by your action. If they said that you're not consultative or you don't have an open door policy or whatever, don't talk about that and say, I changed and look, people now love me for it. Just do it and they will see that.
So this is one of those opportunities for you to have an audio logo, to have determined before you go into this situation what it is you're going to say, how you're going to present yourself to people, because you're either going to acknowledge that you were there before or not, but you still need to be able to very succinctly allow people the opportunity to know what your plans are, what your goal is, what your consideration is in terms of the project or the activity that you're working on, so that they know where they fit and where you fit within the framework of what's being done.
The other thing is actually working with the team to say, look, their input is as valuable. You're not a solo achiever. You're not the one that can come in and just can do everything, change or whatever, just because you bring some good things to the table. It's got to be the combination of everyone in the room, or even employing some external help as well, and let them know that that's how you see it. It's a collective.
So let's extend it a little bit further and say that we've gone into this former place of work. We've done all of the right things in terms of settling ourselves into the workplace and getting on with the team that we're working with now. We've been here for 6 months and it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
So how long do you let it go before you say, you pull the pin and say, this is really not working, I shouldn't have done this? Two-part question. How long do you wait before you make a decision that it's not working for you or for the organisation? And then how do you deal with the feeling that you have made the wrong decision and you've wasted that period of time?
It's not in or out. I would leave that decision as a much later stage. The first thing, I will definitely be honest with myself, and I will be examining what I've done and how I've done it, and could have or should have done it differently. And if the answer is any of those, change it, but incrementally. So the bits that you think was all right, leave it. The thing that you needed to tweak it. The things that you think, look, on reflection and listening to you or reading this article or finding out this new research, I think I want to reverse that decision. If you do all of that, the chances are that it won't be, let me get out of here, I shouldn't have come back. It's in any organisation, you will face these things and you need to revisit some of your decisions, grow some more or whatever. If, however, you went on and you did all of that and you find the organisation brought you in to take us on this journey, to take us to the next step and everything, and every time you made some progress, you and your team, the organisation is giving you reasons why not, as an extreme example, and that's consistent, then you have to call it. Then you have to say, look, let me revisit, why did you create this position, or why did you bring me in to do it, because I think there is a disconnect. Mm-hmm. Let me have a look. This is what I'm feeling, this is what I see, and this is what's preventing me taking us to the next step. And if they say, well, yeah, we actually made a mistake, we're really not ready to take on this new system or whatever it is, or the new way of doing things, then you make up your own mind whether you want to leave them and keep going and progressing your career somewhere else until they are ready, or stay with them.
Okay, so that then leads to the next part of the discussion, which is you've gone back, headhunted or chosen to go back, and it hasn't worked out, and another period of time has passed and the opportunity has presented itself again. The organisation has come back to you and said, now we're ready to make the changes that we weren't ready to make last time you were here. Will you come back?
Okay, that's a hard one, because it depends where you're at and where you are and your loyalties to where you are. You might have started your own company. You might have working for an employer that you love and you're making good progress. My advice on that, even if you can't go back or you don't want to go back, don't close that door. Give them a bit of advice about who might be the person. So I've been working with this one, and this one, and actually the combination of those skills, they might take the lead on it. You'll be happy with them. They were thinking on the same lines and they would have only grown since then, or recommend an external person. So help them, but not to your own detriment. And don't be seduced by the offer. Say, oh, look, they need me, they couldn't do without me, and here I am. It's nice and a great feeling, but what about you and where you're at right now?
And it's also a feeling that shouldn't be the driver for making the decision or continue with you once you're there, because once you're in the organisation again, you've made the decision. They haven't forced you to come back. They
Yes.
haven't made it so that it's an offer you can't refuse, for the most part. You still made that decision to go back, so anything that leads up to that has to be put aside and you be in the moment then of where you are in that organisation. Briefly earlier you touched on being a consultant or being an employee, so let's have a talk about if you were an employee and now you're going back to this former place of work as a consultant. Is it a different approach?
A lot of it is similar. However, you're kind of a little bit more, I don't want to use the powerful, but you're very single focused in a way.
Yeah.
You are focused on getting the agreed outcomes that you signed up for with the organisation. You are not drawn into all other issues,
The politics.
and the politics and the...
But you might be, because you've been part of that environment
Right.
previously and you were probably involved in those sorts of things previously. How do you step away from that without alienating everybody that you were previously interacting with?
I think you won't show too much interest in the peripheral and politics.
We're not there as much.
And you're not there as much, that's true. And you're only dealing with the people that are working on your project. So even if you want to socialise for a cup of coffee here and there, listen, and by all means, because they'll want you to know, because you can understand and sympathise maybe, do that, be a shoulder, but leave it at that.
And the flip side is that you were a consultant or a contractor, and now they've actually offered you a full-time role or a part-time role, but a paid role within the organisation.
There is a difference, because when you come back as such, you're not just focused on that, you're part of the bigger picture. You have to be involved in other areas of the organisation because you're part of the whole chain, you're not the entire piece, and therefore it is different. So you might feel a bit frustration. You've got to prepare yourself beforehand that it is going to be different, but hopefully you have done all that thinking before you said yes or chose to go back. In fact, you could use all your knowledge and experience before as an advantage, just like when an employee goes back. But keep the balance and keep saying what's it now and where we're going, rather than reflection on the past all the time. Learn from the past, visit it, but don't dwell.
I think from my own personal experience, I've done both things. I've been in an organisation and gone back as a consultant, and I've been a contractor and been offered employment in organisations. And for me, the hardest thing was the personal justification, I guess is the best way of putting it, for the decisions that I made one way or the other, and to be comfortable with those decisions and to put the decision aside and to move on to the actual task at hand. You've been in that situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been in that situation, and what I've found best is to talk to the people that also been there and get them to speak rather than me saying, remember when we worked on this project. Let it come from the people that now other people know and respect. This way they know if it worked or didn't work. They trust this person, they've been working with them closely, and to all intents and purposes, I was the contractor who just came back. So in that sense, utilising the strength around you, and which works really well for me because I'm not an expert in all aspects of anything, and therefore I need everyone else, and it seems to work.
Well, there we are, returning to the former place of work, whether it's as a contractor, consultant or an employee. We hope that that's been of value to you. I'm Kim Bailey, she's Fulyana Osborne, and this is Inside Exec.